It was doing well in the ratings, but the network binned it after 22 episodes. Alien Nation took the film's alien buddy cop story, put the creator of V in charge, and gave Fox a new show for Monday nights. By the end of the first season, the cast were expecting another one, so the story was left on a cliffhanger. Then the fans fought back with a big campaign and got 2 television movies approved. But the man upstairs wouldn't stump up the cash. This is the crazy story behind Alien Nation.
That was the scene in California's Mojave Desert 5 years ago. Our historic first view of the Newcomers ship.
In 1985, while working on the Twilight Zone revival, writer Rockne S. O'Bannon came up with the idea that eventually became Alien Nation, a police series about a human cop working with an alien. He took his idea to producer Richard Cobritz, who had produced Salem's Lot and Christine. Cobritz liked it and told him to make it into a movie script. So O'Bannon did just that, and once it was finished, the pair took it around Hollywood. The script ended up with Gaylan Hurd, who had produced and co-written The Terminator with her then-husband James Cameron. She liked the way it used aliens to talk about immigration, and within weeks, the movie was going into production. The story would follow human detective Matthew Sykes, played by James Caan. When his partner is killed, he gets stuck with Mandy Patinkin's newcomer cop Sam Francisco, and the two go after Terrence Stamp's alien crime boss William Harcourt. Initially, Patinkin's character was called George Jetson. The joke was that immigration officials had to find names for thousands of aliens and started giving them familiar human names. But just before filming began, Hanna-Barbera refused permission to use the name from the Jetsons, so they changed it to Samuel Francisco. Alien Nation opened in October '88, making around $32 million worldwide. By then, Fox was still trying to establish itself as America's 4th biggest network. It had only started broadcasting in 1986 and still wasn't on the air every day. So around the time the film came out, they started looking at it as a show for Monday nights. To take charge, the suits brought in Kenneth Johnson, who had already used aliens to take on fascism in V. When Johnson watched the movie, he liked the first half of it, but thought the second had thrown away its setup and turned into Miami Vice with Coneheads. So he pitched it as less War of the Worlds and more Hill Street Blues with alien immigration issues, and wanted to only carry over the newcomers' 2 hearts and their weakness to salt water. Johnson's version was set in 1995, 5 years after a spaceship arrived over the Mojave Desert carrying around 250,000 aliens who had been bred as slaves. The US government gives them freedom, but people start arguing over whether they should attend the same schools, vote, take human jobs, have relationships with other humans, or get the same rights. That was exactly what Johnson wanted. He used the newcomers to take on the same prejudice aimed at various national groups and immigrants. The 2-hour pilot dropped Detective Matthew Sykes, this time spelt with an I, straight into the middle of when his human partner is killed and he's paired with newcomer George Francisco. At work, bodies are found amongst the homeless, while an empty newcomer's skin makes Sykes fear the aliens are changing. From there, the duo carry on solving crimes while getting their heads around different languages, religions, families, and food.
2 worlds collide. Get your hands off me! From a new beginning.
I don't feel like a human woman, do I?
To a tragic ending.
By this point, James Caan and Mandy Patinkin weren't making the jump to television, so Kenneth Johnson needed a new pair of cops. Gary Graham had already spent more than a decade bouncing between television and films. He started with small parts in Starsky and Hutch and 8 Is Enough, before moving into films like Hardcore, The Hollywood Knights, and All the Right Moves. Then Alien Nation gave him the chance to lead a series. A load of actors read for the role, but once Graham showed up and finished his audition, Johnson and everyone else involved agreed they found their man. Then came the role of George. Eric Pierpoint had studied classical theatre and started out doing adverts for mattresses, banks, and cars. Then he moved to New York, where it took around 85 auditions before he landed his first film, Windy City. That led to Kenneth Johnson casting him in Hot Pursuit, followed by Fame. Hot Pursuit though didn't last, but Pierpoint was in with Johnson. When Alien Nation came along, Pierpoint thought he was reading for the human cop, to only find out further down the line that Johnson wanted him for the role of Francisco. So he went back, watched the film again, and took the part. With the two leads in place, Michelle Scarabelli came in as George's wife Susan, with Sean Six and Lauren Woodland playing their children Buck and Emily. With all that sorted, the production brought in Joel Harnell to produce the score for the 2-hour pilot. He had already worked with Johnson on Bionic Woman, The Incredible Hulk, V, and Hot Pursuit. Then Steve Dorff, Larry Herbstritt, and David Kurtz handled the music across the weekly series. The series premiered in September '89 on Monday nights, putting it up against Murphy Brown and Monday Night Football. But somehow it still pulled in some good numbers. Then, as usual, the critics had to have their say. The New York Times thought the Prejudice story was heavy-handed, but still called the show different, adventurous, and worth sticking with. The LA Times said it was about as subtle as an AK-47 and thought the aliens were little more than human clones. Then the Washington Post chimed in and said it was a good idea but had been wrecked by lousy execution. Filming took place around LA with production offices and standing sets at Lacey Street Studios. The pilot reused the police station and apartment sets from Cagney and Lacey. Now, some say Fox gave the pilot around $3.5 million, with nearly $450,000 of that going towards the makeup. Stan Winston told the producers he would be too expensive and pointed them towards Rick Stratton. During one makeup test, Johnson took Pierpoint and Scarabelli to Union Station in full Newcomer makeup. Pierpoint said he felt everyone staring and pointing at it, while Scarabelli walked into an immigration office and was handed a form without anyone batting an eyelid. That makeup also became a daily grind. Pierpoint's head wasn't one of those cool Mission Impossible masks. It was hot, it blocked his hearing, and it made him panic, leaving Graham to take him into a car park and stay with him until he calmed down. Then, at the end of the day, it would take another 45 minutes to remove the mask. Now, while the pilot was being made, Fox ordered scripts for more episodes, leaving Johnson to put a writing team together. He called Diane Frolov, who had already written for him, while her husband, Andrew Schneider, wanted to join her, but according to Johnson, he was still under contract somewhere else. Eventually, Schneider got out of his contract and joined Alien Nation, where he and Frolov began writing together. Johnson also wanted the series to have a sense of humor, so he started looking at comedy writers and brought in Tom Cheehawk. The newcomer culture was also being built as they went along. Johnson's daughter Juliet created the name Tencton and developed the Tenctonese language, which was mostly English spoken backwards with clicks and the occasional Russian word thrown in. But the newcomers needed more than a language. Across the season, they dated humans, paid taxes without getting the same rights, fought for the vote, and worried that the overseers who had enslaved them were coming back.
America, a baby is born every 9 seconds, but this Monday, only one will be born to a man.
The show's first season ended in May 1990. With the writers, cast, and crew expecting to come back for season 2, so the final episode ended on a cliffhanger. But Fox wasn't making enough money from advertising and began cutting costs. Alien Nation was still doing well, but it got caught in the crossfire and got cancelled. Fox didn't replace it with another show. It stopped showing its own programs on Monday nights and left the local stations to fill in the time. Johnson couldn't believe it. Being replaced by another show was one thing, but being replaced by nothing was a huge insult. The fans didn't like that either and began writing, calling, and faxing Fox, demanding the show come back for a second season. In August, Fox told Johnson it was bringing it back, but not as a weekly series. it would return as two 2-hour movies. By November, everything was ready and the cast and crew were waiting, but the movies still needed the final go-ahead from Barry Diller. According to Johnson, the big guy upstairs didn't think Alien Nation would do any better than it did before and refused to spend any money. So the movies died before filming and Alien Nation was cancelled for a second time. While the show was off the air, it carried on through comics and novels. Malibu Comics published stories from 1990 to 92 before Simon & Schuster began releasing books in 93. The second book in that release was Dark Horizon, which was based on the script that would have opened Season 2. By that time, Diller had left Fox, and the new management was willing to give Alien Nation another go. So in 1993, Dark Horizon finally went into production as a TV movie. Dark Horizon aired in 94 and brought the Overseers to Earth looking for the missing slaves. Fox followed it with Body and Soul in 95, Millennium and The Enemy Within in 96, and the fifth and final movie, The Udara Legacy, in 97. After the last movie arrived, fans had to wait more than 8 years for the complete series to reach DVD. Fox released it in America in January 06 with commentary from Kenneth Johnson on the 2-hour pilot and a behind-the-scenes featurette. That same box set arrived here in the UK in January 07. In September that year, Best Buy released all 5 television movies together in the US before the set was released worldwide in April 2008. Now, at the time of filming this, the series and the movies still haven't been officially released on Blu-ray. Now, for fans who want to add the series to their collection, I've added a link in the description below, and there should also be a card popping up on screen to help you check it out. After Alien Nation, Gary Graham moved into Star Trek. His later roles included Tanis in Star Trek Voyager and the Vulcan Ambassador in Enterprise. Eric Pierpoint carried on working in film and television. His later films included Liar Liar and Holes. Now, in 2009, the Sci-Fi channel tried to bring the show back and brought in Tim Minear to write a new series, but it never happened. Fox tried again in 2015, bringing in Iron Man writers Art Markham and Matt Holloway for a new film. A year later, Jeff Nichols came in to direct it. That one got much closer. Nichols said he spent 4 years on the project, had a cast ready, and was preparing to film before Disney bought Fox, and then it all stopped. Disney later asked him to turn it into a 10-part television series, but that version went nowhere as well. So even after all that, the idea behind Alien Nation never really went away, because the whole bloody world is still arguing over immigration, prejudice, and who belongs where. Now, for my own take on it, I've never seen Alien Nation until I started making this video. Before, whenever I saw it pop up, I thought, why the hell did Mick Jagger make a sci-fi cop show? Now, of course, I know it ain't Mick Jagger. But anyway, I watched the pilot and a couple of episodes, and mate, it ain't bad. It's quite good, to be honest. Graham and Pierpoint worked well together, and I like the buddy cop storyline with all the alien stuff going behind it. Now, if I had caught this back in the day, I would have really got into it. It's a shame Fox cancelled it, because it feels like the show could have gone quite a bit longer. So overall, Alien Nation is a good show. And we're not done yet. Next time, we take a look at another classic series. Until then, why don't you check out our previous video on the Sentinel?
Now, a Sentinel is chosen because of a genetic advantage.
Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.